Hi Luther students. So it's been a while since we've been able to do anything together. I thought maybe we could go for a drive. So come on. I'm hoping we'll get to enjoy a sunset tonight. I've been thinking about you as our school year comes to an end and the sun sets on your current chapter. For some of you, the rising sun will be a new year at Luther. And for the grade 12s, a completely new dawn is on the horizon. You've no doubt been missing things. The daily interactions with your friends in the commons, the intellectual stimulation of your math classes, buttered chicken days in the cafeteria. And life outside of school is probably holding some disappointments as well. Delayed driver's licenses, canceled summer sports or jobs. And though there is promise of lighter restrictions, maybe the delight of spending all day, every day, with the same few people in the same place, with little to do, feels a little bit like incarceration. Well, the good news is a lot of great things happen in prison. Maybe you already know the story of this guy named Saul. He lived at the time of Jesus and he really hated the Jesus followers. He uttered murderous threats toward them. He dragged them off to prison. He got permission from the high priest to hunt them down. And on his way to Damascus to do just that, he encounters Jesus. And it's not just your regular everyday encounter with Jesus. Not that your encounters with Jesus are regular everyday encounters, but this was one of those lightning comes from heaven, fall down on your face, end up blind for 3 days kind of encounter. And obviously that changed Saul. He later becomes known as Paul the Apostle to the Gentiles because of that experience. And what's really important or applies to where we're at in life right now is that he spent much of his time as a missionary, much of his last days in and out of prisons, from dungeons to house arrest. He was confined, and in that confinement, he wrote letters. So I want to share with you 3 things that I think are really applicable to where our lives are at right now that he wrote about when he was in isolation. First of all, Paul believed that we could be transformed by the renewing of our minds. He warned people not to conform to the pattern of this world. Now, in his day, people wouldn't have had Instagram and Netflix and Fox News highlighting the pattern of the world, but they still clearly needed to be encouraged to renew their thoughts and to release their fears. Paul gives a really great list of things to think about to help. In Philippians 4:8, he wrote, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Paul said, think about such things because if we focus our minds on the right things, we tend to do the right things. Sometimes, though, we would rather think about whatever is popular, whatever is cool, whatever is best for me and my future, whatever is going to make me rich, whatever is going to be the most fun, whatever is going to benefit me. We think selfishly and we think wastefully. We don't typically think nobly. That might go like, I would really like to be honored less in my life. Please, could someone else receive credit for the work that I do? Those are not normal thoughts for us. Paul's list requires humility, the kind of humility C.S. Lewis described as not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I wonder how differently our COVID time would be spent if we thought even half the time the way Paul did, or if we took time to just consider what we think about or avoid thinking about to begin with. The second lesson from prison: Paul knew how to appreciate his circumstances. There were times he was discouraged, no doubt about it. Just like I'm sure there are times you don't appreciate when your parents ask you to get off your phone, or leave your room, or do more chores than usual because there are more people in the house all the time and it's messier than one would expect it to be. But one thing that Paul also shows us is how to not only appreciate the circumstances, but not to rest in victimhood when they're poor. Paul continues in Philippians chapter 4, verse 11. For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. And he tells us the secret. He says, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Paul asserts that contentment isn't possible apart from the grace of God. When we were in El Salvador this February for the Christian Ethics 30 class, many students reflected upon how happy and generous the Salvadorian people were, though they live in utter poverty. Our contentment shouldn't rest in our possessions or skills and talents or status or appearance or anything that we can compare to anyone else. We have to learn to be content in our own circumstances and to receive the ability to do so as a gracious gift from God. A third lesson that comes to us from Paul's isolation is found in verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. That's Paul saying it again, not me. I would say again, hey, maybe you should clean your room. Those important things that we repeat for emphasis, we want them to stay with us. The word rejoice. It is one of those old words we don't really hear very often except in hymns and sermons. But it is to fill yourself with joy again, to be glad. In the verses that follow, Paul talks about gentleness and thanksgiving. He says that the Lord is near and that we should not be anxious about anything, but that we should pray and petition God, and peace will guard our hearts and minds. As a result, we will be free to rejoice. These ideas to me seem as though they don't belong in prison at all, but maybe it's in isolation when we really need them the most. God literally set Paul apart by having him imprisoned, and Paul wrote about things that would help us be better together. While he was all alone, Paul wrote about unity and peace. So as we navigate this new and strange pandemic world of distancing together apart, I pray that we will think about ways to be meaningfully together. Think about what is pure and lovely together. Be content in your present situation. Rejoice together. And above all, stay out of prison. I miss you. I hope that we'll be able to be together again soon. But in the meantime, enjoy your sunsets.